The Worry Destroyer. 6 mental laws to eliminate anxiety and take control of your life. What if I told you that the average American spends over 3 hours every single day worrying about things that will never happen? What if I told you that this single mental habit is costing you more than just peace of mind, but your health, your relationship, your career success, and your financial future? And what if I told you that in the next hour, I'm going to share with you 6 mental laws that can eliminate worry from your life forever? The American Psychological Association recently conducted a comprehensive study involving over 40,000 participants across all 50 states. The findings were staggering. They discovered that 73% of Americans regularly experience physical symptoms caused by worry and anxiety. Even more revealing, when researchers tracked the actual outcomes of people's worries over a 12-month period, they found that 91% of the things people worried about never actually occurred. Think about that for a moment. 9 out of 10 of your worries are completely imaginary problems that steal your mental energy, disrupt your sleep, and paralyze your decision-making for absolutely no reason. But here's what separates the most successful Americans from everyone else. Whether we're talking about entrepreneurs who built billion-dollar companies from nothing, athletes who dominated their sports for decades, or leaders who changed the course of history, they all share one critical characteristic. They don't waste mental energy on worry. Instead, they channel that same energy into action, problem solving, and creating the results they want in their lives. I've spent over 4 decades studying human psychology and the patterns of achievement. I've worked with Fortune 500 CEO, professional athletes, and some of the most successful people in America. And I can tell you with absolute certainty that worry is not just unproductive, it's actually destructive to everything you're trying to accomplish. Worry is like a rocking chair. It gives you something to do, but it doesn't get you anywhere. The challenge is that most Americans have never been taught how to properly manage their mental faculties. We teach our children mathematics, science, and literature, but nowhere in our educational system do we teach the most important subject of all, how to control your own mind. We leave people to figure out on their own how to deal with fear, anxiety, and worry. The result is a nation where anxiety disorders affect over 40 million adults, where stress-related illness costs our healthcare system over $300 billion annually, and where the majority of people feel like victims of their own thoughts. But today, that changes for you. I'm going to share with you 6 mental laws that, when applied consistently, will eliminate worry from your life and replace it with the kind of mental clarity and emotional strength that characterizes every truly successful person. These aren't theories or motivational platitudes. These are proven psychological principles that work with mathematical precision when you apply them correctly. The first thing you must understand is that worry is not natural, normal, or necessary. Worry is a learned mental habit, and like any habit, it can be unlearned and replaced with something better. The human mind is the most sophisticated goal-seeking mechanism ever created, but it will work for you or against you, depending on how you program it. When you program it with worry, fear, and anxiety, it creates more situations that validate those negative emotions. When you program it with clarity, confidence, and purposeful action, it creates opportunities and solutions that move you toward your goals. Every single successful American throughout history, from Benjamin Franklin to Thomas Edison, from Henry Ford to Steve Jobs, understood this fundamental principle. They understood that you cannot control everything that happens to you, but you can control how you respond to what happens to you. And your response, not your circumstances, determines your destiny. The 6 mental laws I'm about to share with you are based on decades of research in cognitive psychology, neuroscience, and behavioral economics. They've been tested and proven by thousands of people who have transformed their lives by applying these principles. They work regardless of your background, your current circumstances, or your past experiences with worry and anxiety. The first mental law is the law of clarity, and it states this: you cannot manage what you cannot clearly define. The second is the law of worst-case analysis, which teaches you how to neutralize fear by facing it directly. The third is the law of mental acceptance, which shows you how to transform resistance into power. The fourth is the law of daily programming, which explains how to build unshakable mental strength through consistent daily practices. The fifth is the law of mental focus, which reveals how to redirect your mind from problems to solutions. And the sixth is the law of immediate action, which demonstrates how action eliminates anxiety faster than any other intervention. Each of these laws builds upon the previous one, creating a complete system for mental mastery. By the time you finish learning and applying these 6 laws, worry will no longer have power over you. Instead, you will have the mental tools to handle any challenge, overcome any obstacle, and create the life you truly want. Let me begin with the first mental law that will start transforming your relationship with worry immediately. The law of clarity states that you cannot solve a problem you cannot clearly define. The reason most people remain trapped in cycles of worry is that their fears are vague, undefined, and constantly shifting. They have what psychologists call floating anxiety, where they feel worried but can't even articulate exactly what they're worried about. Dr. Daniel Kahneman, the Nobel Prize-winning psychologist from Princeton University, discovered through his research that the human mind has a tendency to catastrophize unclear situations. When you don't have clear information about a potential problem, your imagination automatically assumes the worst possible outcome. This is an evolutionary survival mechanism that served our ancestors well when they needed to be cautious about unknown dangers, but in modern American society, it creates unnecessary suffering. The solution is deceptively simple, but incredibly powerful. The moment you feel worry beginning to form in your mind, you must immediately write down exactly what you're worried about. Not tomorrow, not when you have time, but right now. Take out a piece of paper or open the Notes app on your phone and complete this sentence. I am worried that, and then write down the specific, concrete fear. For example, instead of floating in vague anxiety about your career, you write, I am worried that I won't get promoted this year, and my income will stay the same. Instead of general worry about your relationship, you write, I am worried that my spouse and I are growing apart because we don't communicate like we used to. Instead of undefined financial anxiety, you write, I am worried that I don't have enough money saved for retirement and I'll have to work until I die. Something remarkable happens the moment you define your worry with precision. It immediately becomes smaller and more manageable. What felt overwhelming and insurmountable when it was floating around in your mind suddenly becomes a specific problem that you can analyze and address. You've taken the first and most important step toward regaining control. Benjamin Franklin, one of America's most successful and influential founders, used this exact principle throughout his life. He was famous for writing down every problem he faced in clear, specific terms before attempting to solve it. He understood that a problem well defined is a problem half solved. Franklin's methodical approach to clarity enabled him to become successful as a printer, inventor, diplomat, and statesman because he never wasted energy fighting shadows. Here's your immediate action step for the law of clarity. Right now, before you do anything else, write down the 3 things you worry about most frequently. Write them as specifically as possible. Don't worry about solutions yet. Just practice the skill of mental clarity. You'll discover that most of your worries become far less frightening when you drag them out of the shadows of vagueness and into the light of specific definition. The second mental law is the law of worst-case analysis, and it's one of the most powerful psychological tools for eliminating fear. This law states that you must consciously and deliberately think through the worst possible outcome of any situation that's causing you worry. Most people avoid doing this because they believe it will make their anxiety worse, but research from Harvard Medical School proves exactly the opposite. Dr. Susan David, a psychologist at Harvard Medical School, conducted extensive research on what she calls emotional agility. Her studies show that people who are willing to face their worst fears directly experience significantly less anxiety than people who try to avoid or suppress fearful thoughts. When you refuse to think about worst-case scenarios, your subconscious mind fills in the blanks with imaginary catastrophes that are usually far worse than reality. The law of worst-case analysis requires you to ask yourself this specific question: what is the absolute worst thing that could realistically happen if my fear came true? Notice I said realistically. We're not talking about asteroid impacts or zombie apocalypses. We're talking about real-world consequences that could actually occur. Let's work through an example. Suppose you're worried about starting your own business because you might fail. Using the law of worst-case analysis, you would ask, what's the worst thing that could happen if my business failed? You might answer, I would lose the money I invested. I'd have to go back to working for someone else. I might have to move to a smaller apartment. And some people might think I made a mistake. Now here's the critical next step. You must ask yourself, could I handle these consequences if they actually happened? In almost every case, you'll discover that you're much stronger and more resourceful than you realized. You could get another job. You could rebuild your savings. You could find a different apartment. You could handle other people's opinions about your choices. This is exactly what happened to Colonel Sanders, who didn't become successful until he was 65 years old. When his restaurant failed and he was living on Social Security, he could have worried endlessly about his future. Instead, he analyzed the worst-case scenario. He would be poor, but he wouldn't starve. He would be old, but he wasn't dead. He had a recipe he believed in and the energy to keep trying. He took his worst-case analysis and decided he could handle it, which freed him to take the actions that eventually built Kentucky Fried Chicken into a global empire. The psychological power of worst-case analysis is that it removes the fear of the unknown. When you know exactly what you're dealing with, when you've mentally rehearsed handling the worst possible outcome, that situation loses its power to control you through fear. You become like a boxer who has trained for every possible punch his opponent might throw. You're prepared, you're confident, and you're ready to act. Here's how to apply the law of worst-case analysis immediately. Take the 3 worries you wrote down for the law of clarity and work through each one. Write down the realistic worst-case scenario for each worry. Then write down how you would handle that worst case if it actually happened. You'll be amazed at how much mental freedom this simple exercise creates. The third mental law is the law of mental acceptance, and it represents one of the most profound psychological discoveries of the 20th century. This law states that you must mentally accept the worst-case scenario before you can effectively work to prevent it. This might seem counterintuitive, but it's based on solid research from the University of California at Los Angeles, DR. Matthew Lieberman, a neuroscientist at UCLA, used brain imaging technology to study what happens when people practice mental acceptance versus mental resistance. His research shows that when you mentally resist or fight against a potential outcome, you activate the stress centers of your brain, which actually reduces your problem-solving abilities and creative thinking. But when you mentally accept a potential outcome, even a negative, you activate the prefrontal cortex, which is responsible for rational planning and solution generation. Mental acceptance doesn't mean you want the worst case to happen or that you're giving up. Mental acceptance means you're willing to face reality as it is, not as you wish it were. It means you stop wasting mental energy fighting situations you cannot change and redirect that energy toward things you can influence. This principle was demonstrated powerfully by Admiral James Stockdale, the highest-ranking naval officer held prisoner during the Vietnam War. Stockdale spent 7 years in a Vietnamese prison camp, enduring torture and solitary confinement. When researchers later studied how he survived psychologically when so many other prisoners broke down, they discovered he had mastered the law of mental acceptance. Stockdale didn't waste energy denying his situation or fantasizing about quick rescue. He accepted the reality that he might be imprisoned for years, that he might be tortured, and that he might even die in captivity. This mental acceptance didn't make him passive or defeated. Instead, it freed him to focus on what he could control: his response to torture, his communication with other prisoners, and his preparation for whatever challenges each day might bring. The same principle applies to every worry in your life. When you mentally accept that you might not get the promotion, you stop wasting energy on anxiety and start focusing on improving your performance. When you accept that your relationship might end, you stop trying to control your partner and start working on becoming the kind of person who attracts healthy relationships. When you accept that your business might fail, you stop being paralyzed by fear and start building the skills and systems that increase your chances of success. Here's how the law of mental acceptance works in practice. You take each worst-case scenario from your previous exercise and you consciously say to yourself, "I accept that this might happen, and if it does, I will handle it and move forward." You don't say this because you want it to happen, but because you are strong enough to handle whatever life brings your way. This mental acceptance creates what psychologists call psychological flexibility instead of rigid fear that keeps you stuck. You develop the mental agility to adapt, adjust, and respond effectively to changing circumstances. You become like water, which is soft and yielding, but can wear away the hardest stone through persistent, consistent action. The fourth mental law is the law of daily programming, and it's based on the revolutionary discovery that you can literally rewire your brain through consistent daily practices. This law states that your mental state tomorrow is determined by what you do with your mind today. Neuroscientists at Stanford University have proven that the brain remains plastic throughout your entire life, meaning you can create new neural pathways and eliminate old ones through repetitive mental practices. Dr. Carol Dweck's research at Stanford demonstrates that people who engage in consistent daily mental programming develop what she calls a growth mindset. These individuals see challenges as opportunities, setbacks as learning experiences, and effort as the path to mastery. People without daily mental programming tend to develop a fixed mindset, where they see their abilities as limited, avoid challenges to protect their ego, and give up more easily when facing obstacles. The most successful Americans throughout history have all understood the law of daily programming. They didn't leave their mental state to chance or circumstance. They deliberately programmed their minds every single day with thoughts, images, and beliefs that supported their goals and values. Benjamin Franklin started each day by asking himself, "What good shall I do this day?" and ended each day by asking, "What good have I done today?" This daily programming helped him maintain focus and positive momentum regardless of external circumstances. Thomas Edison spent 30 minutes every morning in what he called genius session, where he would relax his mind and allow creative solutions to emerge naturally. Henry Ford used daily affirmations and visualization to maintain his belief that he could mass-produce automobiles when everyone around him said it was impossible. Your daily programming routine must include 4 essential elements. First, you must program your mind immediately upon waking, before the demands of the day begin to influence your thoughts. Second, you must feed your mind with positive, educational, and inspiring information throughout the day. Third, you must regularly review your goals and priorities to maintain clear direction. Fourth, you must end each day by programming your subconscious mind with positive expectations for tomorrow. Here's a specific daily programming routine that has been tested and proven by thousands of successful people. Wake up 15 minutes earlier than usual and spend the first 10 minutes of your day in complete silence, breathing deeply and setting positive intentions for the day. Write down 3 things you're grateful for and 3 specific actions you'll take today to move toward your most important goals. Throughout the day, listen to educational audio programs during your commute instead of news or music that might trigger worry or negativity. Before bed, spend 5 minutes reviewing your accomplishments for the day and visualizing successful completion of tomorrow's most important. This routine might seem simple, but its cumulative effect is extraordinary. When you program your mind consistently for 30 days, you'll notice that you worry less, think more clearly, and take more effective action toward your goals. When you continue for 90 days, these positive changes become automatic and permanent. The 5th mental law is the law of mental focus, which states that whatever you focus on expands in your experience. This is not mystical thinking but proven neuroscience. Dr. Daniel Siegel's research at UCLA shows that where attention goes, neural firing flows, and neural connection grows. When you consistently focus on problems, your brain literally becomes better at finding problems. When you focus on solutions, your brain becomes better at generating solutions. The challenge for most Americans is that our culture programs us to focus on problems, dangers, and negative possibilities. The average American is exposed to over 5,000 negative messages every day through news media, social media, and casual conversation. Your brain absorbs these messages and begins to see the world as a dangerous, unpredictable place where problems are everywhere and solutions are rare. But you can reprogram your mental focus using what I call the solution-focused question sequence. Every time you catch yourself worrying or focusing on what you don't want, you immediately ask yourself 3 questions. First, what specifically do I want instead of this? Second, what can I do right now to move toward what I want? Third, what's one small action I can take immediately? This sequence redirects your mental energy from problems to solutions, from fear to action, from feeling like a victim to operating like a creator of your own destiny. It's based on the same principle used by solution-focused therapists who help people overcome depression and anxiety by training them to focus on desired outcomes rather than current problems. Walt Disney used this exact principle to build the Disney empire. When people told him that Disneyland would never work, that families wouldn't travel to an expensive theme park, that he was risking financial ruin, Disney didn't argue with them or worry about their objection. Instead, he focused his mental energy on the specific vision of what he wanted to create. He spent hours every day visualizing families enjoying magical experiences together, imagining the sounds of children's laughter, picturing the pride employees would feel in creating happiness for others. This focused mental energy didn't just keep Disney optimistic. It actually influenced his decisions, his actions, and his ability to inspire others to support his vision. When your mind is focused on clear, positive outcomes, you naturally make better decisions, notice more opportunities, and attract people who want to help you succeed. The law of mental focus requires daily practice. Just like physical exercise, you must train yourself to catch negative, worried thinking and immediately redirect to positive, solution-oriented thinking. The more you practice this mental redirection, the stronger this neural pathway becomes, until focusing on solutions becomes your automatic response to any challenge. The sixth and final mental law is the law of immediate action, and it's the most powerful worry destroyer of all. This law states that action and anxiety cannot coexist in the same moment. When you take action towards solving a problem, worry disappears instantly and completely. Dr. Amy Cuddy's research at Harvard Business School proves that purposeful physical action changes your brain chemistry, reducing cortisol, the stress hormone, while increasing testosterone and endorphins, the confidence and happiness hormones. The reason most people remain trapped in worry is that they think about problems instead of acting on solutions. They analyze, discuss, research, and plan, but they avoid taking the one step that would eliminate their anxiety, actually doing something to improve their situation. Your brain is designed to worry when you feel powerless and to feel confident when you're taking constructive action. This principle was demonstrated dramatically by Ernest Shackleton, the Antarctic explorer who led one of the most incredible survival stories in human history. When Shackleton's ship was crushed by ice, leaving him and his crew stranded in one of the most hostile environments on Earth, he could have spent his time worrying about the impossibility of their situation. Instead, he immediately focused on action. He organized daily routines, assigned responsibilities to each crew member, maintained equipment, and consistently took steps toward rescue. His commitment to immediate action not only kept him mentally strong, but inspired his entire crew to survive conditions that should have killed them all. The law of immediate action requires you to take some constructive step toward improvement within 24 hours of identifying any problem. It doesn't have to be a huge step. It just has to be a real step that moves you from thinking about the problem to actively working on the solution. If you're worried about your finances, your immediate action might be creating a budget, calling a financial advisor, or researching investment options. If you're concerned about your health, your immediate action might be scheduling a medical checkup, joining a gym, or preparing a healthy meal. If you're anxious about your career, your immediate action might be updating your resume, enrolling in a professional development course, or having a conversation with your supervisor about advancement opportunities. The specific action matters less than the fact that you're taking action. Every action you take sends a message to your subconscious mind that you're in control of your life, that you're capable of handling challenges, and that you're moving forward rather than staying stuck. This psychological shift from powerlessness to empowerment eliminates worry more effectively than any other intervention. Here's how to implement the law of immediate action starting today. Look at the 3 worries you've been working with throughout this presentation. For each worry, identify one specific action you can take within the next 24 hours that would improve the situation or move you closer to a solution. Don't overthink it. Don't wait for the perfect action. Just choose something constructive and commit to doing it. Now, let me bring these 6 mental laws together into a complete system that will eliminate worry from your life permanently. The law of clarity requires you to define your problems specifically, rather than allowing vague anxiety to cloud your thinking. The law of worst-case analysis demands that you face your fears directly and realistically, which removes their power to control you. The law of mental acceptance teaches you to stop fighting reality and start working with it constructively. The law of daily programming shows you how to systematically strengthen your mental resilience through consistent positive practices. The law of mental focus trains you to direct your attention towards solutions rather than problems. And the law of immediate action transforms you from a worried spectator into an empowered participant in your own life. These 6 laws work together like a comprehensive fitness program for your mind. Just as physical exercise strengthens your body's ability to handle physical challenges, mental exercise using these 6 laws strengthens your mind's ability to handle psychological challenges. The more you practice these laws, the stronger your mental resilience becomes, and the less power worry will have over your life. Remember this crucial truth. Worry has never solved a single problem in the history of humanity. Worry has never improved a relationship, increased anyone's income, or enhanced anyone's health. Worry is not preparation. It's not problem solving, and it's not responsible planning. Worry is simply the misuse of your imagination to create problems that don't exist and fear outcomes that probably won't happen. Successful people don't worry because they understand that their mental energy is their most valuable resource. They invest that energy in activities that move them toward their goals rather than wasting it on imaginary problems. They focus on what they can control rather than what they cannot control. They take action rather than taking anxiety. You have the same mental capabilities as the most successful people who have ever lived. The only difference is how you choose to use those capabilities. From this moment forward, you have the tools to use your mind as it was designed to be used, as a goal-seeking, problem-solving, solution-generating mechanism that creates the results you want in your life. Your assignment is simple but powerful. For the next 30 days, apply these 6 mental laws every single day. When worry begins to form in your mind, immediately use the law of clarity to define the problem specifically. Apply the law of worst-case analysis to face your fears realistically. Use the law of mental acceptance to stop fighting what you cannot change. Implement the law of daily programming to strengthen your mental resilience. Practice the law of mental focus to keep your attention on solutions. And activate the law of immediate action to transform anxiety into accomplishment. If you do this consistently for 30 days, worry will lose its power over you forever. You'll discover that you're stronger, more capable, and more resourceful than you ever imagined. You'll begin to see challenges as opportunities rather than threats. You'll develop the kind of mental strength and emotional resilience that characterizes every truly successful person. The choice is yours. You can continue to allow worry to steal your peace, drain your energy, and limit your potential. Or you can take control of your mental faculties and use them to create the life you truly want. You can remain a victim of your thoughts, or you can become the master of your destiny. Your future success, your happiness, your relationships, and your sense of personal fulfillment all depend on this decision. Will you choose to worry, or will you choose to act? Will you focus on problems, or will you focus on solutions? Will you remain trapped by fear, or will you step forward with confidence? The 6 mental laws are yours now. Use them well, use them consistently, and watch as worry disappears from your life, replaced by the kind of mental clarity, emotional strength, and purposeful action that creates extraordinary results. You have everything you need to succeed. You are more capable than you know. Your time is now, and your future begins with the very next decision you make.